name is Mr. McKillop, and I am one of the 2 outdoor education teachers at the school.
首先欢迎大家来，我本人呢是我们户外教育教研组的2位老师中的1位。
So, I'm going to talk to you tonight about the Grade 10 Winter Camp. If you have any questions as we go through, feel free to raise your hand, and I will also give an opportunity at the end just to ask any questions that you may have. What we'll look at is the overview of the camp, so I'll give you an idea of what the camp will look like, what will be involved for the students. We'll have a look at the itinerary. There are 2 camps, and they have a slightly different itinerary. And then we'll have a talk about the risk and safety that will be involved on the trip, as well as what the students need to pack with them, which will take a while. That's what all this is here for. And then some key dates. Okay, so that's what we'll go through. And like I said, if you have any questions, just raise your hand.
今天我们给大家开这个会呢，主要是讲一下10年级这个冬季露营的一些事项。所以在这个过程当中，你们随时有任何的问题都可以提问。同样，在这个会议结束的时候，也会给大家时间，大家如果有问题可以再提出来。那今天我们会首先介绍一下这个露营的概览。其次呢，我们会在这个整个露营当中会跟大家讲这个露营会是个什么样子，需要孩子们做的事情是什么。同时呢，因为我们有分2个组，所以2个组的那个行程具体的行程稍微有一些不同，所以我们还会讲一下这个行程方面的事情。同样在这个旅途当中的一些风险和安全事项。同时呢，最重要的一个部分也是花时间最多的呢，就是这个打包这个在所携带的这个设备当中，孩子们该带什么样的东西。这也就是今天为什么老师这儿放了这些东西给大家演示，给大家来看。最后我们会提到一些重要的日期，需要大家记住。
Okay. So, the area that we go to for the camps is called Manning Park, and you can see from the map here, it's very close to the border, but it is much further east than here. And it takes around about 5 hours for us to get here. On the drive, we usually stop after a couple of hours and give the students a chance to go into usually a Tim Hortons, and they can have a little snack or a cup of tea or whatever they fancy on the way out to try and break the journey up for them. So it's a good idea for students to bring a little bit of cash with them, just so that they can get something when we stop. There are 2 camps, as I said. The first one goes from the Sunday until the Tuesday, so that's the 22nd until the 24th. The second camp goes from the Thursday until the Saturday, which is the 26th to the 28th. They both go to the same place, but we split the grade up into 2 separate groups. Each camp has around about 40 students on it. If you're not sure which camp your son or daughter is on, I will bring up a slide later on that will show you which camp they're on and also which other students they are in a tent group with.
首先呢，我们从地图上大家可以看，我们这个旅行的目的地是 Manning Park。Manning Park 离我们这儿的车程大概有5个小时左右，所以在这个过程当中，我们会有不同的地方停下来，让孩子们休息。我们也通常，比如说带他们去那个 Tim Hortons， 让他们去吃点东西或者喝点东西。所以呢，你们也可以建议你们给孩子身上带一点零钱，这样的孩子休息的时候可以买点东西吃。那我们的这个行程呢分2组，2个 camp， 去的目的地是一样的，但是每一个队出去的队里差不多有40左右的孩子。那2组的时间也都列在上面，一个是22号出发，一个是24号出发。那如果你们不清楚自己的孩子在哪一组，之后会给大家看那个名单，你们就知道他是哪一天出发，并且跟大家同组的同学都有些谁。
Okay, so myself, I will be going on both camps, and so will Miss McTavish, who is the other outdoor education teacher, as well as the two of us on both camps. There will also be on Camp 1, Miss Ferreira, Mr. Anovich, and Miss Ayanowska. And on Camp 2, we will have Miss Brunswick-Werner, Miss Lowe, and Miss Wong.
我们这个两个出行的两个组呢，老师本人以及我们户外教研组的另一位老师Mix Tavish， 他2位老师都会参与这两个camp。同时呢，我们每一个 camp 里头每一组呢都有3位其他的老师来带队。
Okay, so one of the goals for the camp is to show the students how to camp in a winter environment in a way that has as minimal impact on the environment itself as possible. So we will be showing them things that we generally describe as campcraft, which will be things around self-care, looking after themselves, how to sleep when it's cold at night, how to cook outside when it's cold, how to make sure that your tent mates and yourselves, everyone's looking after each other when you're camping out in a winter environment. And also the students are planning some elements of the trip, particularly the clothes that they're bringing with them and the meals that they're going to be eating when they're on the trips. So teaching the students how to do those things and giving them the opportunity is one of the first goals of our camp.
所以我们出行的第一个首要的目的就是让孩子了解如何在极端的这个冬季的这个环境下去露营。那他们在这个过程当中，要学会如何在他们露营之后给环境带来最少的这个影响。比如说他们如何自己的照顾，在这儿呢，我们用了一个词叫露营术，这是指他在露营过程当中的一个自我管理、自我照顾的一些技能。比如说他们如何在这个比较冷的环境下入睡。如何呢？在这个外部的环境，就是室外去在这个比较冷的环境下去给自己做饭。同时呢，在整个帐篷当中，如果有其他的同学，他们怎么能够互相的去照顾对方？同时呢，在这个过程当中，孩子们也参与了很多计划的一些工作，比如说他们要计划带什么衣服，比如说他们要计划如何去准备他们的这个午餐、正餐等等。所以呢，这是我们此次的这个出行第一个最重要的目的。
Okay, so what we see as being the second goal for the students focuses on, first of all, their self-care. So the camp in a winter environment can be a real challenge, particularly mentally, for students who are not used to being in an environment like this. Generally what we find is that students really enjoy it and they have a great time when they're out there, but it's a really good opportunity for them to exercise some self-care. They have to be looking after themselves, they have to be aware if they're getting cold, if they need to eat more, if they need to drink more. They have to be aware of all those things and to take some action if action is required. As well, it also gives students an opportunity to do the same thing but for their peers. So it can be a really good leadership opportunity for students to be helping others who are maybe struggling, or to be looking out for others, keeping an eye on their friends, making sure that people are warm, making sure that people are eating and drinking as much as they should be when they're out on the trip. So it's both a good opportunity for them to practice their own self-care, as well as an opportunity for them to demonstrate some good leadership and teamwork skills when they're out.
我们认为在这个过程当中，刚才讲到了很重要的，也就是他们自己的照顾。在冬季的环境下，很多孩子来说，要在这个环境下，对他们来说是有一定的挑战性的，尤其呢是在心理上的一个挑战。那通常根据我们的经验，在这个整个的行程当中，孩子们是很享受这个过程的，也是很愉快的。所以我们认为这是一个很好的机会来锻炼孩子们的自我照顾、自己照顾自己的一个好的机会。比如说他们当觉得很冷的时候，他们是不是给自己就是吃的足够多，让他们能够比如说休息的足够多，或者说喝足够多的水，所以让他们知道在一定的这个环境下，如果出现了某种状况，他们应该采取某一些措施，他们是否真的能够照顾好自己。 以同样的一个标准，我们同时给孩子另一个要求，就是来体现他的领导力，就是以同样的标准来照顾他的同伴，来看这个他的同伴是否能够，比如说该吃的时候怎么能够让自己保暖，或者该喝足够的这个水等等。所以这是一个很好的机会，让孩子们锻炼自己的自我管理以及其他同伴的一个这个协助和帮助的一个机会。
Okay, so our third goal looks at students getting the opportunity to travel in the winter. So the three main elements of that are, first of all, snowshoeing. So a lot of our students will have snowshoed with the school in the past. So for many of them, it won't be the first time that they've been snowshoeing, but it may be the first time that they've snowshoed while carrying a backpack, and it may be the longest snowshoe that they've done. So when they're on the camp, they will do a hike that usually takes around about 2 hours, keeping in mind that you generally go a little bit slower when you're snowshoeing and when you're in a big group. So the students will get the opportunity to snowshoe with a backpack on to get from their campground to the cabins that they'll be staying in. And they'll also do a day snowshoe where they get to hike for around about 90 minutes, and we'll go out to a frozen lake area that's really beautiful, and we'll do that as a day hike. So we'll have 2 snowshoeing trips.
第三个目标就是我们要保证孩子在这个过程中能够学会一些在冬季出行的一些技能，所以我们会练习一些特殊的一些这个活动。第一个呢就是雪鞋行走，如果是在我们学校已经有过读过几年的孩子，可能这一次对他们来说并不是第一次雪鞋行走的这样的一个体验，但是呢，也许他们之前没有进行过这个，就是背上自己的背包在雪地里进行穿着雪鞋行走的这样的一些经验。而且我们这个过程当中有的这个路程呢，因为要小组共同出行，而且是大家的水平这个差异比较大，所以有可能会时间比较长。在2个小时这样的一个过程当中，从我们的这个露营地走到他们要居住的地方，孩子们要背好自己的背包，一起跟着大队去这个行走，所以这个体验有些孩子会没有。第二点，第2次我们雪地雪鞋行走的是我们有1天的这个徒步的。也大概有90分钟这样的一个行走的过程，到一个就是上面都已经冰冻上的一个湖的地方去，那个湖也很美，整个这个对于他们来说，这个体验就是要背着自己的背包进行这样的一些训练。
Okay, so the second winter travel technique that the students will use is skate skiing. So skate skiing is a type of cross-country skiing or Nordic skiing, and the students will do this with instructors from Manning Park. So there is a cross-country ski school at Manning Park, and their instructors will be teaching our students in small groups how to cross-country ski if they've never done it before. Or if they've done it before, then there will be groups for intermediate or advanced cross-country skiers.
第2个让他们学会的在冬季出行的一个技能就是这个滑板滑雪，这个呢属于这个越野滑雪其中的一项。那我们在当地呢就会让孩子们能够体验到这种这个学习这个新的项目。如果他从来没有滑过的呢，我们在 Manning Park 里头，他有这样专门的学校教这一项，所以呢，有这个教练就会跟他去教。如果他之前有过这样的体验，那他们有小组的这种课程，比如说是中级或者高级课程，来给孩子来让他们去学习这个技能。
Okay, and the final one is they'll get a chance to go ice skating on the evening when they're sleeping in the cabins. And Manning Park has a nice outdoor ice rink. The ice skating is optional, so the students don't have to participate if they don't want to. Usually at the same time we will have some tobogganing going on, and students can choose which of the 2 they would like to do. If they're not interested in either, then we normally have a big outside fire going, and students are able to sit around the fire under the stars. And while I have that in mind, every student will be required to bring a helmet with them so that they can either ice skate or toboggan. And the helmet can be a cycling helmet, it could be a hockey helmet, a skiing helmet, anything like that. But they'll have to bring their own with them because they won't be allowed either to toboggan or ice skate without them, and Manning Park won't provide any.
第3项呢，就是我们有机会让孩子就是住在这个居所里的，当地的一个居所里的这个夜晚里头，他们有机会在户外Mandarin Park 里头有一个很好的一个户外滑冰场，所以孩子有机会去滑冰。但是这个并不是一个必须要参加的，学校也会组织相应的其他的活动、替代性的活动来参加。但是在这里提醒一下大家，就是如果要是这个我们要求所有的参加滑冰的孩子必须这个携带头盔，这个头盔可以是自行车头盔，也可以是滑雪的头盔，也可以是打 hockey 的一个头盔。但是如果要是没有头盔的话，是不可以上冰的，在 Mandarin Park 里头也是没有租用的。
Okay. And the final goal for the trip is that we will do a humanities assignment while we are out there. So it has not yet been introduced to the students as far as I know, but it will be introduced to them in their classes either this week or next. It's a fairly short assignment, it's really good fun, and essentially they're asked to do a role play of a pioneer in the Canadian outback and creating some technology when they're out there. So it's good fun, the students enjoy it, and it provides a link between what we're doing out on the trip, the environment that we're in, and the humanities curriculum that the students are studying in their classes.
第4个我们的目标就是和他们的所谓的这个人类学课程里头所学到的一些内容相关。目前据老师所知呢，这个内容就是让孩子在这个过程中完成一个作业呢，还没有跟孩子们讲，但是这周之内或者下周会跟他们提到。这个作业的内容并不长，是很有趣的一项内容所以我们也会要保证让孩子在这个过程当中能够就是通过我们的经验是孩子们是非常喜欢的，而且是很有趣的一项练习。他们应该最终会呈现出一些这种角色扮演这样的一些成果，是跟他们所学的人类学课程是相关的。
Okay, so this is the itinerary, and this is an overview of what the days will look like for the students. So, the first day, students have to be at Mulgrave for 7:30, and at 7:30 we will start loading up the bus, and we will head off to Manning Park. Like I said, we usually try and do a stop at Tim Hortons, and it will take, depending on road conditions, around about 5 hours for us to get there. Once we get there, we will get the students off the bus, make sure that we have everything with us, we haven't left anything on the bus, and then we will snowshoe into the campground. So the picture that is in the top right hand corner there, that is the shelter which is in the campground. So the shelter is there for us if we need to use it, but generally we try and keep students outside of the shelter unless they absolutely have to be inside it. And so on that first day, once we've got in, we'll set up our tents, and we will give the students the chance to settle in to where they are. We'll teach them a little bit of the campcraft that we spoke about earlier on in terms of how to look after themselves and how to camp in that environment. And then they'll get the chance to create an area out of the snow that will be their kitchen. And it's really good fun for them. They get shovels, they get to kind of mold and shape the snow into whatever they would like it to look like for their kitchen. And then they get to eat their dinner out there, so they'll cook their dinner outside. And then usually by the time that they've had their dinner and they've cleaned up, then they're pretty keen to get into bed. It still gets dark quite early, so most students will be keen to get into bed early-ish, And so we talk to them about how to sleep in a winter environment. We make sure that everyone's okay. We'll check in with all the students, and then they will go to bed for their first night camping outside.
我们行程的第一天7点半要准时到校，到了学校以后，我们就会把行李装车。之后呢，刚才讲了，就是我们中途在 Tim Horton 会停一下，之后呢，我们直达，根据路况的情况，我们来到达了以后呢，把这个巴士上的所有的东西取下来了之后，孩子进行背包，之后徒步走到我们要露营的地点去。在现在你们看到照片里的右上角的第一张那个小房子，那个不是孩子居住的地方，是一个好像一个庇护所一样。也就是说，这个我们尽量不会让孩子进到这个房子里头去，他们所有的一切的行动都是在户外的。这个只是说他非常需要的情况下，可能才会进到这个小屋里去。那我们到达了以后，孩子们就开始自己搭帐篷。当然，我们要在这个现场给孩子们教很多关于露营一些注意事项。搭好了帐篷之后呢，他们就开始利用雪这个本身的这个当地所有的这个雪来搭建自己的厨房。本身这个事情也很有意思，就是孩子们用这个各种自己的想象力来搭建自己认为适合的一个厨房，全部都是在户外进行。他们做好了饭之后呢，在外面把它完成了晚餐之后，我们的老师也会对他们进行所有的检查。通常在这种情况下，孩子都是已经非常疲倦了，所以就很想早点去休息。那我们也会给孩子讲，就是如何在冬季这么寒冷的情况下入睡。之后呢，老师会检查每一个孩子，保证每个孩子的这个情况。所以通常比较早的时候，孩子们因为当地这个天黑的也比较早，所以孩子们就会这个休息了。
Okay, so on the second day, students will get up in the morning and make their breakfast. And once we've all fed ourselves and made sure that everyone is awake, then we will break camp and pack up all of our gear. Students will pack up their tents, everything that they brought with them will go into their backpacks, and then we will snowshoe to the main area in Manning Park, and that is where the cabins are located, and they will spend their second night in the cabins. So we'll hike back around about, hopefully get there around about lunchtime, check into our cabins, get ourselves started in our cabins, have lunch there. And then we spend the afternoon doing a couple of different stations. And at those stations we will look at we'll do an introduction to avalanche safety and travel in the backcountry for the students. And they'll also get the opportunity to do their socials assignment that afternoon of the second day. Once we've done that, then we'll have our dinner. This time it will be dinner in the cabins, so the students will have a regular kitchen to cook in, so they're not cooking outside on their stoves. They'll have a full kitchen with an oven and a stove and I think a microwave as well. And once they've had their dinner, then they'll have the opportunity to either ice skate or toboggan or to just hang out around the fire outside.
第二天呢，就是早上醒来了以后呢，我们就孩子们开始做早餐。吃完早餐，我们确保每个孩子都醒了，我们就开始把所有的东西收拾起来。所以我们带来的东西收拾好了以后，孩子们背上这个行包，我们会进行我们再接着向我们下一站的地方，就是有孩子们下一站要住的一个小的一个旅馆一样的地方，就是在 Manning Park 里面。他们走过去了以后呢，期望我们能够到达的时间是中午，就是在午餐之前。到了之后呢，这个孩子呢会在这个cabin， 就是说这个小的这个旅社里头，它会有正式的一个厨房，所以就孩子们不需要再在外面去做饭。这个厨房里头也有炉子或者是其他的一些工具。之后呢，孩子会在这个会完成首先我们会集合跟孩子讲一些安全上的注意事项，之后孩子们会完成他们这个社会学方面的这个功课。之后呢，我们会进行这个晚餐。晚餐刚才讲了，也是在这个房间里面进行准备。 晚餐之后呢，我们会进行这个滑冰或者是其他的一些刚才我们讲到的一些活动项目。如果孩子不愿意滑冰或者其他项目的话，也可以坐在那个篝火的外面。
Okay, so final day, day 3. Students will get up in the morning. They will pack up all of their gear, make sure that their cabins are spotless, and once they've done that, then they will go out for their cross-country ski lesson. So they'll have their lesson for almost 2 hours, I think an hour and a half, and then once that's finished, they will come back to the main resort area and we will load up the bus and head back towards the school. We plan to get back to the school around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But once we get here, the students have to check in all of the gear that they've borrowed from the school, which I will show you in just a moment. And so all that has to get cleaned and checked back in. We hang up our tents to make sure that they're dry, particularly if it's the first camp, because the second camp needs to use them. And then they will be free to go home. Usually that takes them around about 20 minutes, half an hour. So if we are on time, if all is going to plan, then they should be ready to leave the school for 3:30 on the final day.
那第3天呢，早上醒来了以后，孩子们首先要收拾好自己的这个宿舍。宿舍呢，我们要保证孩子们把所有带来的东西全部都要带走，宿舍要整洁。之后呢，他们会上一个将近1.5小时或者2个小时左右的一个这个滑雪的课程。那在这个课程结束之后，孩子们会到这个活动区域的主区，我们集合，然后装车。我们预计是在大概的下午3点左右到达学校。回到学校了以后，所有的从学校借了这种用具和装备的学生呢，必须先跟老师这儿来报到，还了所有他们借的一些这个用具了之后，老师经过了一个整理，尤其是我们要保证所有的东西都要晾干，因为如果你的孩子在第一组的话，我们马上接下来第2组就要用的一些东西，我们要提前把它都整理好。所有的孩子这些设备归还结束之后，大概需要20到30分钟。我们预计大概在3点半的时候，他就可以离校了。
Okay. So, like any trip, there are some risks involved in this trip and precautions that we take in light of that. The first thing that I would say is please make sure that you read through the consent form which was sent out to you. I know that some of you have signed that and brought it back already, so we'll collect those at the end. But that has a lot of detail in it, and Ms. McTavish and I spend a lot of time making sure that we're covering everything that could possibly happen on the trip, and that we're making plans as to how we would deal with any of those events. So please have a good look at it. Clearly we're driving for 5 hours, so there's always the chance of there being some sort of a motor vehicle accident while we're driving. When we're backpacking, when we're out in the winter environment, we'll have to be making sure that we're keeping an eye on students' hydration, making sure that people are warm and well fed. Some students will suffer a little bit from fatigue, tiredness when they're hiking, when they're snowshoeing, but generally it's not all that strenuous. The biggest concerns for us usually are just around about students looking after themselves when they're in a cold environment. Particularly if it's snowing or if it's wet, then we have to make sure that they are taking care of themselves as they need to. And also the cooking side of things. So particularly when they're outside, they're cooking on a camp stove, and so we just always make sure that students are being careful about how they're cooking. We'll always go through good practice for them, demonstrate it to them before they actually go off and cook. Even although most of them will have cooked on the type of stove that we give them in the past, on their fall camps in particular, they'll have cooked in an environment similar to this. And then the travel element of it, snowshoeing, skate skiing, ice skating, all of them obviously carry a degree of risk. Miss McTavish and I have our 90-hour wilderness first aid certificate, so we have a high level of first aid training with us. We'll always have extensive first aid kits with us, including EpiPens, so if there's any issues with allergies, then we will be equipped to deal with that. We'll also have with us cell phones with all the teachers, and we will have 2 different satellite communication devices. So we have an extensive array of communication devices and first aid equipment with us.
当然，这个旅行当中就会参与，或者说就可能存在一些潜在的风险。那之前我们有给大家发一个就是家长授权的签字表格，可能你们有些人已经交回来了。那这个会后我们如果说今天带来了，我们也会收。如果你们有机会的话呢，希望你们仔细阅读一下里面的内容，因为我们已经这个把能够整个行程当中涉及到的一些风险，我们都想到了，也考虑的放在里头。所以你们如果还有机会，你们也可以再看一下。那当然，我们这次出行是坐这个大巴出行，所以肯定这些风险当中包括比如说机动车的可能在路上的一些事故啊。或者是孩子们在整个的行程当中有可能会出现这种脱水啊，或者说因为孩子们这个雪鞋行走啊，或者其他的一些活动会让他们感觉到这个劳累。那我们要保证孩子们能够让自己能够身体是暖和的，能够吃足够的东西。最重要的是我们需要他们能够自己照顾好自己，尤其是当下雪或者比较湿的这种情况下，孩子是否能够自己照顾好自己。我们呢也会在这个过程中跟孩子们去展示什么样是一个好的一个比较有帮助的一些做法，让孩子们去学习。另一个风险就是说在户外，孩子们要用基本上是我们提供的这个炉子来做饭。那这个过程中我们也会给他讲一些安全的一些措施。另一种风险就是过程当中我们有滑雪、滑冰这些活动，还有雪鞋行走这样的运动项目。那这些运动项目可能也存在一些潜在的风险，但是呢，我们带队老师，尤其他本人和我们另一位这个教研组的老师，他有最高这个级别的这个急救的拿到这样的一些 certificate， 所以他们的经验非常丰富。如果出现这样的问题，同时他们也有这个急救包携带在身上，他们会进行第一时间的这个有效的处理。另外呢，我们每一位带队老师都会带有这个手机。同时，他们还有2台这个卫星通讯的设备，来保证我们整个的这个行程当中的这些安全。
Okay, so now for the fun part. I think everyone will have a copy of the clothing and equipment list. It looks different to this, but it's the same stuff that's on it. So I'd encourage you to have a look through that. If there's anything on it that you don't recognize, you don't understand what it is, then please let me know. What we'll do is I will go through most of it and cover the stuff that's really important, particularly things that are a little bit different for a winter camp rather than a fall camp. So let's start at the bottom. So, yes, go for it.
你们手里应该都拿了一张我已经翻译好的这个清单，所以呢，如果你们没有，这里还有一个，你们可以过来拿一下。那跟这个屏幕上的看起来不太一样，但实际上的内容是一样的。我们呢主要是接下来呢，我们会跟大家过一下所有的我们认为重要的一些内容。开始录音吧。所以我们会把这个每一项内容重要的东西都跟大家讲一下，然后最重要的是我们会跟大家提示哪一些这个装备是跟秋季的露营的装备有比较大区别的一些东西。
Okay, so we'll start with the feet. All the students have to have a winter boot. Now, it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but there are a few properties that this boot has that their boot should also have. First one is a good sturdy sole, and then waterproofing. Alright, so this one here is essentially a rubber, and that makes sure that the boot up until this point here is watertight. Ideally, the boot will go up well above their ankle, so that it, for most students, will kind of go up to halfway up their leg. And inside it, it should have an insulating liner. So you can see that this boot has a liner that comes completely out of the boot, and this is what provides the heat or the insulation for the boot. So the outer sole has a thick sole and waterproofing, and then inside an insulating liner. The nice thing about having a liner that comes out of the boot is that at night time, when it's getting cold and they're camping in the snow, they can take the liner out and they can put it inside their sleeping bag, so that when you wake up in the morning, they've got a warm liner to put inside their boot, instead of having to put on a really cold boot. If they have one where the liner doesn't come out, if they leave it outside of their tent, it will freeze rock solid, and that's not nice to put on in the morning.
我们先从脚开始，首先呢，老师演示的这个靴子，你们的靴子不一定完全要跟这个一模一样，但是具备的重要的功能，第一，它的底应该是很结实的；第二呢，每个孩子都必须有的；第二个呢，就是你们看到侧面它是橡胶的，那个是完全防水的，所以对于孩子来说，他的直到脚面上那一部分都是完全防水的一个保护。第三呢，这个靴子的高度至少要过这个脚踝骨，但是大部分的孩子的那个靴子可能都已经到了那个小腿这一部分，这个是比较好的。最重要的，刚才老师拿出来的那个，就是好像一个鞋套一样的。那这个重要的功能是在于，冬季的这个雪靴，如果它是在比较寒冷的环境下，晚上它可以把那个里面那个内套那一部分拿出来，放在它的睡袋的里面。早上起来这个东西是热的，孩子就可以直接穿上。如果你是不可以拿出来的话，它放在外面那种极冷的环境下，早上起来可能已经冻硬了，这个就是对孩子来讲是很不适的。
I just wanted to add, these ones are, the brand of these ones is Sorel, S-O-R-E-L, and you don't necessarily have to go to an outdoor shop to get these. Somewhere like Mark's Work Warehouse or somewhere like that will stock boots like these.
刚才老师给的这个牌子呢，你们不一定非要买这个 Sorel 这个牌子，很多其他的店也都有卖的。
Okay, so sticking with their feet, the students will have to bring with them a lightweight shoe that they can wear when they're in their cabins. And so that can be anything like a trainer, a running shoe, and that doesn't have to be anything specific for the trip.
第二个呢，就是脚上还需要一双比较轻便的鞋，就是说当他们第二天住在那个宿舍里的时候，他们要在室内穿的一个鞋，就是比如说运动鞋啊，这样简单的就可以。
Okay, one final thing that students might want to think about for their feet is that you can get an insulated down boot like this, and it's soft, it has a soft sole, it's not designed for hiking in, but it is designed to keep your feet warm. So a lot of people in a winter environment will wear these when they're inside their tent. You can get away with a little bit of walking in the snow with them, but not too much. But they're really good for keeping students' feet warm. And they're fairly soft, so you can actually sleep with them on if you want to. The school has a limited number of these that can be borrowed from us, and the students can come and talk to us tomorrow if they would like to borrow some of these. We have a list set aside.
还有一个就是说到脚呢，那我们也建议有这个，当然不是所有孩子，如果你不需要也可以不用带。就是这个鞋的目的是它的底很软，就是主要的功能在于这个保暖的，所以呢孩子可以穿着这个睡觉。那如果你们这个孩子如果就是觉得会冷的话呢，我们学校还有很少量的一些鞋，孩子们可以去借。如果那个有需要的孩子，明天可以去找老师联系老师。
Okay, so students will have to have a backpack. When they hike from their campground to the cabin, they have to be able to carry all of their gear. So they need to have a backpack which will fit all of their gear, plus the food that they bring with them, and any parts of the tent or any shared group gear that they're carrying. So I would recommend, I think it says 60 litre here, yeah. So a 60 litre backpack is generally what we recommend for students to buy, to bring. They don't necessarily have to buy one. So if they don't already have a backpack, I would recommend speaking to other students or other families with children either in grades above or below, because throughout our outdoor education programs, there's often a requirement for a backpack. So you may be able to find someone that you can borrow one from. Just make sure that the backpack fits the student. Obviously, people have different length backs, and so backpacks do come in different sizes in terms of who it's designed to fit.
接下来说一下背包。那我们的建议呢是60到70升这个体积的背包。那这个背包呢，我们每个学生都必须有，他需要装下他自己需要携带的所有的装备。除此之外，还有他们小组一起要计划携带的食物，以及小组当中他们要共同分享使用的一些装备。所以呢，这个背包的大小，请大家一定要找到合适的。另外呢，就是你们在选购的时候呢，这些背包的大小一定跟孩子的身高你们要进行尝试，要适合他自己的身体。如果孩子们没有的话呢，你们也不一定去买，可以跟我们学校的其他的比他们大或者比他们小的一些家长去借一下，因为如果在我们学校，我们参与我们学校的户外这个教育项目的孩子都应该有这样的一个背包，所以大家可以去参考一下。
Okay, so one of the pieces of equipment that the school will give to every student is an N-Select pad like this. And the reason we give them one of these is it is designed for them to sleep on. Now, what we ask for students to do is to bring their own thermarest like this, and to sleep on top of this, on top of that. Okay. Most students who have been on our fall camps will have had to use a thermarest like this in the past. So hopefully you already have one, or you can access one through friends. You can get winter thermarests, you can get summer thermarests, but most are designed for general use for all seasons. So what I would say is, unless yours is specifically designed for summer, which is pretty unusual, then it will be fine. Okay? And what the students will be asked to do, like I said, is they'll have the N-Select, which the blue mat, which the student will provide, the school will provide to the student, and then on top of that, they will put their own thermarest. So they'll sleep with it like this. Okay? So all they need to bring in that regard is the thermarest. Okay?
另一个呢，就是学校会提供这个蓝色的垫子，就是这个垫子，这两个垫子的用途是放在雪地里让孩子睡在上面的。所以呢，这个在雪地上铺的第一层是这个蓝色的垫子，是由学校给每个学生提供的。学生自己需要携带的就是这个橘黄色的睡垫。那这个通常的基本上卖的这个睡垫呢，它都是适用于每个季节，除非你们家的那个是一个夏天用的，但是这个很少见。
Okay, so since we're talking about sleeping, the students all will have to bring their own sleeping bag, and we recommend that the bag that they bring is rated to -12 degrees. So if you have a sleeping bag at home and you're not sure what the rating is on it, most of them at the bottom of the bag will have a label on the outside, and the label will have the rating written on it. Sometimes if it came in a storage bag, the storage bag will also have the rating written on it. So the first thing to check is that the sleeping bag is rated to -12 or lower. So a -15 bag is warmer than a -12. A -20 bag is warmer than a -15, so on and so forth. Okay? So if yours is -12 or -13 or 14 or 15 so on, then that's fine.
既然我们谈到了这个睡觉这一块呢，我们睡袋是要孩子自己携带的。那我们对睡袋的要求是，它的那个等级是要能够御寒-12度的一个睡袋。如果你不知道你们家现有的睡袋的一个御寒级别呢，通常它会在那个脚底下的时候，或者是在外面包装袋的时候会有一个说明，上面你们看到的它会标识出来是就是说它的那个御寒程度。所以如果是比-12度更低，那就更好，就是说它的御寒程度更高，比如说-15度或者-20度，那就证明它更保暖。但是如果比这-12度更高的这个数字，比如说正的数字，那就是证明它的御寒的能力越差。
Okay, Ken, I need you. Take your shoes off. Okay, step in. All right, so a good sleeping bag will have, so a good winter sleeping bag will have a collar around here so that when the person is asleep, it wraps around their neck kind of like a scarf. Okay, and you can see on this one, you can make it tighter or you can make it looser. All right, and it will have a hood like this. Okay, so if I zip, you don't look so scared. If I zip this all the way up. That's what a student can look like when they go to bed at night. So the important parts, it has a hood that can be tightened. It obviously zips all the way up, and it has that collar on the inside.
好的睡袋就是这几个标准。冬季的睡袋，一个是一定要有领子，第二那个拉链可以拉到底，那个领子还可以缩的是很紧。第三个非常重要的是这个睡袋一定要有一个帽子。所以刚才他那个样子就是说，孩子们如果在冬季用这个睡袋睡的时候是的样子。所以刚才讲的那3个因素是一个就是冬季露营这个好的睡袋的一个标准。
Okay, one thing to note, whenever you have a jacket or a sleeping bag that is this sort of puffy style, there are 2 things that it might be filled with. One of them is a natural down, the other one is a synthetic down. I'll let you explain that and then I'll tell them pros and cons.
想有一点注意的就是说，一个冬季的这个睡袋，通常像这个睡袋就是很胖，就是说很蓬的感觉。那我们想提醒大家有2种，里面填充物有2种，一种是合成的这个绒，一种是这个天然的羽绒。
So there are pros and cons to both. This sleeping bag is a natural down. So you can see that there are little feathers coming out of it, and these are all natural feathers. The good thing about a natural down is that it insulates extremely well, and it compresses to a really small space. So you can really compress it down, and it's nice and light. The downside of it is, if it gets wet, it does not insulate nearly as well as it does when it's dry. So that's the pros and cons to a natural down.
这一个睡袋呢，它就是天然的这个填充的羽绒，所以你们刚才看到老师已经把有那个小毛调出来了。那它的优势在于它填充它的这个就是比较的松软一些，它会 就是说很松软。但是它的缺点是说，如果它一旦湿掉的话，那它就很难去填充，很难去蓬起来。
So I have this jacket because it is synthetic down. So the plus of a synthetic down is that it insulates even when it's wet. So if it gets wet, it still does a fairly good job of keeping you warm, unlike the down. The negative of the synthetic is that it's heavier and it doesn't compress nearly as much. All right. So those are the pros and cons of the two of them. Generally, natural is a little bit more expensive than synthetic.
我手里拿的这件外套，它的填充物就是合成填充物。那它的优势就在于，即使湿了，它也能够填充起来，让大家孩子保暖。但是它的缺点就是说，它很难挤压的像这个自然的这种填充物一样，可以挤压到比较细、比较小的这个齿量。通常这个天然的会贵一点点。
So, one final thing about sleeping bags is that if you have a sleeping bag which is almost warm enough, but not quite, so maybe a -10 or a -9 sleeping bag, you can either borrow from the school or from somebody else, or buy an overbag like this. So this is basically designed to go over the top of your existing sleeping bag, and it adds just a little bit of extra warmth to it. So one, you can get different types of overbag, but one like this will normally improve the warmth of the sleeping bag by about 5 degrees. So if you're close to -12 but not quite there, or your son or daughter, you know that they get cold when they sleep, then an overbag like this is a good idea. We have about 3 or 4 of them at the school, which we will lend out, but obviously we don't have a lot.
如果你们家里现有的睡袋呢，可能接近这个零下12度，但是又没有到的话呢，那你们可以不管是朋友，学校也有3到4个这样的，刚才老师给看的这样的一个 cover， 你们也可以去借。它通常呢，像这一款呢，它就可以增加差不多5度左右的一个保暖。所以如果你觉得你的孩子可能就是休息的时候会觉得怕冷，或者是你们家现有的睡袋还不够那个级别，可以来跟我们去借。
Okay, so clothing for them to wear themselves. We'll start with their outerwear. They need to have with them a rain jacket. Okay. Now the rain jacket needs to be a jacket that is waterproof and not just water resistant. So if it is a material like this, a Gore-Tex material, then it will be waterproof. Alright, so that's good, that's what we're looking for. It does not have to be Gore-Tex. Gore-Tex is very expensive because as well as being waterproof, it also allows your body to breathe on the inside. So it doesn't have to be Gore-Tex, but it does have to be waterproof. And that goes for their jacket and for pants. So a material like this is generally not waterproof. A lot of ski pants and ski jackets are made from a material like this, but they are not waterproof. They're only water resistant, and when you're staying out all night, it is not enough for it to just be water resistant. Okay?
首先，我们接下来讲一下孩子穿的衣服。从外面讲，首先每个孩子必须带一套那个防水的衣裤。这里讲的防水衣裤是指的水完全进不去的，而不是那种就是说水，就是说比如说老师刚看的这个雪裤，大部分外面卖的这个滑雪裤的材料都不是防水材料，也就是说，它们可能是水渗进去比较慢，但是不是绝对的防水。如果像孩子穿着这个衣服在户外待一整天的话，那这个像这个雪裤这样的情况就是会渗水，那不能够保证他们能够让这个身体是干的，所以一定要购买穿着这个防水的衣裤。
Okay, so underneath waterproof layers, the most important thing for students when they're in a cold environment is that they wear lots of different layers. Instead of wearing 1 or 2 big, heavy layers that keep them warm, we prefer that they wear multiple thinner layers. And the reason for that is when they are hiking or when they're cooking, they may find that they start to get a little bit warm, and it's good for them to be able to take off one layer and cool off just a little bit instead of having to take off their only insulating layer. So it's much easier for students to regulate their temperature if they're wearing multiple layers instead of just one or two big thick layers. If they just have a big heavy layer, they have the option of being either way too hot or way too cold, all right, which is not what we want.
着装的一个重要的一个技巧或者重要的一个因素就是说，要保证孩子们在这个过程当中穿很多层比较薄的一层一层加上去，而不是给孩子穿一件很厚的衣服。这个的原因就是说，当他们在徒步或者在做饭的时候，他们身体就会热起来。那当这个热的时候，我们会通常我们的做法就是建议他脱掉一层薄薄的一层，让他来调整身体的温度。如果你只给他穿了一件很厚的衣服，那他的选择只有是要么就是太热，要么就是太冷，他脱掉了也会很难受。所以呢，这个是我们不希望见到的。
Okay, so the next most important rule, and perhaps the number one rule, is that they should not have anything that is made from cotton. The reason for that is that when cotton gets wet, it does not insulate at all. In fact, it draws heat from the person wearing it, and it takes a really, really long time to dry. And in fact, in a winter environment, if anything made of cotton gets wet, either through sweat or through spillage or cooking or anything like that, it will not dry for the rest of the trip. So it's really important that they don't bring anything that's cotton, and they should try and bring things that are either synthetic, like fleece, or that are natural, like wool.
这也许是我们这个着装当中最重要的一点，就是请不要携带任何全棉的东西，衣服给孩子，因为它的原因是一旦全棉的东西湿掉，不管是他出汗或者其他的任何原因湿掉了以后，整个的行程它都不可能干，要花很长很长的时间。那要干的话，它会吸收孩子身上的一个热量，所以所有的东西请不要携带这个全棉的。那么你们的选择要么就是这种合成材料的，比如说像抓绒的衣服，或者是天然的材料，就是比如说羊毛这样的衣服。
Okay, now I don't have everything here that is on that list. Miss McTavish has some of the gear. In fact, Ken, could you do me a favour? Could you go and see if Miss McTavish is finished with the trolley that has all the clothes on it for me? Thank you. But I'll show you a few of the things so that you get an idea of what we're looking for. Like I said, we wear lots of layers. So generally, I would expect students to have on a thick wool ski sock on their feet, and then a thinner long john base layer underneath. So what I mean by a base layer is something that's kind of a little bit like this, obviously not cotton, and not especially thick, but something that's comfortable for them to wear against their skin, on the top and on the bottom. So long johns and then a base layer for their upper body underneath. So that's kind of how we start, is with that base warm layer that's comfortable against their skin.
我们从最里面开始讲，首先每个孩子要穿一双比较厚的那个羊毛袜那从最里面讲就是说孩子要穿一个贴身的很舒服的那个内衣，上身下身，那就是很薄，而且是最关键是说孩子穿在身上要很舒服的那种材料，当然就是不能够穿那个全棉的衣服。
Okay, after that, essentially what we do is we want students to wear things that are increasingly heavier and warmer. So if this was their base layer, they may have on top of that a long sleeve which is slightly heavier and slightly warmer than their base layer, and then on top of that probably at least two more insulating layers. So something like this, which again is a long sleeve and a little bit heavier, and perhaps and heavier still wool top like this, or maybe even a fleece like this, and then an insulating jacket. Now this insulating jacket is a thin version. hopefully I'll be able to show you the thicker one that we have. But an insulating jacket like this is a down jacket, and so a student would have on probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, easily 5 layers, all right? Starting with the thinner base layer, working up to something heavier like this, and probably a heavier jacket still than this, an insulating jacket.
我们刚才给大家看到的那个最底下那一层那件绿的衣服，就算是第一个基础的一层知识。之后呢，我们建议就是逐渐它那个厚度会加厚，保暖程度会提高。那往外的话，至少要再穿2层以上的这个厚一点的，比如说甚至于可以抓绒的这种外套。之后呢，再在外面穿一个这个我们展示的这个是比较薄的一款那个羽绒的外套。之后呢，如果那边结束，我们可以给大家看一下稍微再厚一点的。所以至少一个孩子他要穿5层，除了就是从里面的底层到外面不算刚才讲的那个防雨那一层。
And they would do the same thing with their lower body, with their legs. So they would have on their socks, a thin long john, then an insulating layer, and then possibly another layer on top of that. The key thing is that they're able to, those layers all fit on top of each other, and crucially that their rain gear, so crucially the rain gear, so this jacket and the rain pants has to fit over all of those layers underneath.
那腿部的这个原则也是一样的。那除了刚才我们讲比较薄的那个像内衣那个长裤之后呢，大家可以往上再不停的加。那关键的一点是说，你每一层都可以是就是很好的穿进去的，一层裹一层。还有一点呢，就是这个外面不要忘了，外面我们还有一个防雨的裤，要能够套上你们套的那几层的衣服。
Okay, so this would be an example of a heavier down jacket, a warmer down jacket that somebody might wear as their final layer, unless it was raining, when they would put on top of this their rain jacket. So it's really important that the rain jacket goes over the top, like this.
这个就是厚一点的那个羽绒服。
They will also need to make sure that they bring with them gloves. And again, we can have a layering system with gloves where they have a liner. So some gloves will have a liner inside it that does the insulating, and then a waterproof element on the outside. And so you can see this, the purpose of this glove is purely to keep your hands dry, whereas this glove would be for keeping your hands warm. And so if it's raining, you wear this glove underneath this one. If it's not raining, you can probably get away with just wearing this one. Okay?
所以手套的原则也是一样的。如果要是下雨的话呢，一般就是2套，外面的那个是防雨的，里面的那个是保暖的功能。如果是不下雨，那你可能穿1层保暖的手套就够了。如果是要下雨，就要把外面那一层套上。
And just so that you can see, a rain pant that we would expect them to have would be something like this. Alright, that would go over the top of their insulating layers.
这个是防雨的材料制成的。刚才老师有提到那个 Gore-Tex 那个技术，它那个技术呢，就是如果你任何你们的孩子的衣服上标有这个的话，那就是证明它是防水的。但是不一定要买 Gore-Tex 这个材料的东西，因为它价格会比较贵。但是 Gore-Tex 的好处在于它能够就是透气。
Okay, and of course a toque or two to keep them warm. And then this is an example of a thinner glove that students might want to have. Generally when I'm out in the outdoors, I'll almost always be wearing a thin glove like this. And then if my hands are getting cold, then I'll put on the heavier glove on top of that.
这个帽子和手套，通常在户外的时候，老师本人自己是永远戴着这么一副手套的。如果他觉得还在冷的话，他再把这个刚才我们讲的那个比较厚的手套戴上。
And they may also choose to bring a neck warmer like this. In fact, I think it's a requirement. I think it's on our list. So it kind of acts like a scarf, but doesn't get caught in things. Scarves can get caught in the snow or be a nuisance when you're trying to camp or set up your tent. So a nice neck tube warmer like this is a good thing for that.
这个是给脖子保暖的，它的好处优于这个围巾，就是围巾有时候会影响你工作，会挂到别的东西上不安全，那这个是比较好的一个。
Okay, I'm conscious that we're taking a long time, so maybe we can just ask if there are any questions about the clothing that we've covered.
好，关于这个衣服，大家看有什么问题没有？
那像刚才说的那个，不是里边穿5层，外边再穿个那个羽绒服，最外边再套那个防水的雨衣。
5层里包括那个羽绒服了。
我知道羽绒服，那不是还要有一个那个防水的雨衣吗？那是套那个套在最外边是吧？
对对对。
那就不需要带太厚的那个羽绒服。就不需要了，对吧
？So it's not needed. They bring a heavy jacket, a big down jacket, but waterproof.
No, so it's actually better if they have their down jacket and their waterproof jacket separate, because it means if their waterproof jacket gets wet, they can take it off and let it dry without having to lose their insulating layer.
其实我们是建议2个一定要分开的，因为如果你就是你那个防水的衣服弄湿了，你可以把它脱下来抖一抖，让它去晾干，但是你里面还是暖和的。如果你穿一件，你脱下来，孩子就是会冷。
这鞋就不是那种鞋爪的就行吧，就是正常的那个鞋，这不就可以了？
So is the regular snow boots okay, or do they need in terms of the sole? Do they need particularly the sole for the camp?
I'm not sure what you mean by a regular snow boot.
So some of the boots may in terms of the sole, it's not flat or smooth. You have particular function.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the most important thing with the boot is that the sole is thick, so it insulates from the snow and it has grip on it. So it has to be, in order to work with snowshoeing, it has to be a thick, sturdy boot. If it's a thin sole, then it won't work when they're snowshoeing and it won't insulate so well.
因为那个底要结实，首先要结实要厚，同时它要有一定的那个纹路的，这样它才在雪鞋穿雪鞋时才可以用。太薄的底是不行的。
如果没有那种的，就是可以直接穿那种就是防水的那种雪靴，然后里面穿羊毛袜嘛。他们的鞋爪呢是要放在那个帐篷外面吃。
When you sleep inside the tent, and if they have a boot that has a liner that will come out, the liner will go inside the sleeping bag. If it doesn't go out, it will be inside their tent, and so it shouldn't freeze, but it will get cold.
对，拿不出来的话，只是穿袜子，那个鞋虽然会放在帐篷里头，但是也会很冷。There's no rubber. Shoes doesn't have rubber around. Is that okay?
If it doesn't have rubber all the way around, as long as it's waterproof, then that's fine. Like if it has a Gore-Tex material or something like that.
如果它够厚，然后它又防水的，不一定是 rubber， 如果它有其他的可以。
大一点可以让或者是到小孩子。
Okay, so the last thing. One of them is for hot drinks, and the other one is just for regular water. So one of them would be like a drinking mug for hot drinks. Yeah, like a mug, and then the other one's just a regular mug. Okay. Yes.
So if they don't, 如果要是不滑冰的话，是不是不用戴那头盔啊
If they don't want to escape, they don't need to bring it out.
Yes. Okay, but I might recommend that they bring one anyway, just in case they see all their friends skating and decide that they want to do it.
建议就是说他是带上，因为到那儿一看别的小朋友都在滑，然后他也想滑的时候又没有头盔，就不可以。
Okay, so the last thing to talk about is cooking. So when the students are cooking out in the camping environment, they will be given a stove like this with plenty of fuel. So they'll get more than one fuel canister, and they will be given 2 pots like this. That's it. All right.
What student?
For a group. Maybe a group of 4, and maybe a group of 2, maybe a group of 3, but no more than 4. Okay, so the students who've been in our fall camps are used to cooking on this, or at least they've experienced cooking with this, but this is the extent of what they get.
一个组我们会分这么一套设备，给孩子们做饭，所以那个组呢最多是4个人，最少是2个人，这是一个组用这么一个锅和小炉子。
So, when they're cooking in the kitchen, in the cabin, it's a regular kitchen, so it's nothing particularly unusual about that. The only thing is that they have to share it with more than one group, so we may put together 2, maybe 3 tent groups would be sharing one cabin. So the only thing to think about when they're cooking in the cabin is that they can't spend 3 hours cooking up a fabulous gourmet meal if they're not going to share it with the rest of the people that want to use the kitchen.
到了这个宿舍里头的的时候呢，他也是做饭，但是到那个地方就有正式的一个厨房，但是我们可能就会要求孩子们说，你要跟其他的小朋友要分享了，不是说光你们几个人做好，你们几个人吃，因为有时候如果你做了很多，花了3个小时做了一顿大餐，我们是一定要求他要跟其他小朋友分享。
Okay, so we'll concentrate on the cooking when they're outside camping. And like I said, this is what they will have. They will have these 2 pots. And it's important that the meals that they are making are easy for them to make and that they don't take a long time. They don't require them using a lot of fuel. And that they give them lots of calories, lots of energy, and also hopefully some warmth.
所以我们在户外的时候，我们会教他们关于怎么做饭呀，什么这些技能。我们的核心就在于我们做的这些东西，因为不想让他们用就是要越简单越好，不想要用太多的这个燃料，然后去做很复杂的饭。但是我们要保证孩子的热量要够。
So things that we often will have, students will have pasta-based meals, rice, noodles, things like that. Things where they really only need to boil some water and then add in those ingredients and allow it to boil for a while, and then it's good for them to go. Soups are really good. They should be bringing things like hot chocolate with them as well for drinking. Stews, things like that are the sorts of food that students tend to have when they're out on the camp. And obviously it's important that it's something that they know how to make and that they're comfortable cooking. And like I said, that it is quick for them to make. So if it's a pasta or if it's noodles or rice, if it has to boil for 20 minutes, they're going to run out of fuel. So it has to be something that is a little bit quicker. So rice that's like 8-minute rice or whatever, or pastas that will cook a lot faster than 20 minutes.
我们的原则呢，就是说，要保证热量，所以比较我们做的多的，比如说是煮那个面条或者是米饭这样子。但是如果是你这个米饭或者面条花费20分钟以上的话，那它的燃料就已经用完了。所以我们会跟他讲，就是说你们做的这些东西在计划的时候，要比如说建议，比如说18分钟就能熟的饭。所以呢，比如说做汤。这个就比较好一些，当然我们会建议孩子也带热巧克力，因为要保证它的热量。
Okay, so it's really important that the students don't bring extra weight because they're going to be hiking with their bags on. So it is important for them to think about how much they need of each of the items that they're bringing with them for their dinners. And so with that in mind, it can be a really good idea for them to use containers like these and portion out the food that they're going to be needing with them. So for example, if they want to have some ketchup with one of their dinners, we don't want them to bring an entire Costco container of ketchup. What we prefer for them to do is to take a smaller container and put some into here and then carry only this. So it allows them to reduce the weight and to reduce packaging and things like that. The one caveat is if they're taking things like noodles or pasta or anything out of the packaging and putting it into another container, make sure that they cut out the instructions on how to cook it and put that into the container, or they write it on the outside so that when they actually go to cook it, they know what it is that they're supposed to do. They know how many cups of water to add to it or whatever, and make sure that they have everything. So if it needs butter to be added to it, or milk if they're making mac and cheese, then they have all those ingredients that are required.
那我们一个重要的关于这个携带食物，我们重要的原则就是孩子们携带的东西不要带过沉的东西，给他增加过多的这个重量。比如说孩子说我有顿饭想要用那个番茄酱，我们会建议你给他找那种小的瓶子，把番茄酱装在里面，而不是说拿一个像 Costco 那种大包装的一瓶整个背在身上，因为他用不了。另一点呢，很重要的就是说，如果他要做 pasta 或者做米饭的时候呢，我们会单独找一个这个小的东西来让他把米饭或者是面条放进去的时候，一定要确保孩子把怎么做的这个说明剪下来贴在这个罐子上，比如说加几杯水啊，加什么，以备于他到了现场已经忘掉了这个东西该怎么做。所以如果他需要有些做什么东西，比如说 mac and cheese 要加黄油或者加牛奶的时候，也要提醒孩子们在准备的时候把这个他所需要的所有的原料都要带齐。
And also remember that what you see that came out of this red bag, that's all that we give them. So they need to bring a bowl, maybe a plate. They need to bring their own cutlery, and they may also choose to bring some extra utensils for cooking with. And if, for example, they are bringing a can of something, a can of tuna maybe, if it needs a can opener, they need to bring it themselves because we won't provide them with things like that.
刚才我们从那个袋子里拿出来是学校会给他们提供的，但除此之外，他们这些东西都要自己携带。比如说，他们要带自己的碗或者盘子、餐具、刀叉这些。也许他们可能也需要带一些多余的这个勺啊、做饭的用具。如果他要在这个他带了，比如说吞拿鱼的罐头，但是他要自己想要这个罐头打开，要自己带自己的那个罐头的开启的器，他得自己带上。学校是不提供的。
Okay, so all the students have been told what groups that they are in and who they should be planning their meals with, and they've been given a meal plan document that looks like this. And they should have shared that with at least one person at home. Okay, so you should have access to it, and if you don't, then you can ask them for access to it, because we want you to be able to look at what it is that they are planning on eating when they're on the trip.
我们给所有的孩子已经发了这个表，就是一个他们的用餐计划表。他们也已经知道他们该跟谁一起去来计划他们出行的一个做这个餐的一个情况。我们也要求他和你们家庭成员中至少一位已经分享了这个表格。如果你们现在还没有看到，回去了以后要求孩子给你们看这个表格，因为我们需要你们来监督他们在这个过程当中进行了很好的一个准备。
Okay, so with the meal planning, this is where it's really important that the students show some maturity and some leadership and ability to work with others, because they have to communicate amongst their tent group. So we expect them to talk about allergies. If any of the group have allergies, they need to speak up for themselves, and they need to listen to other people and keep that in mind when they're planning their meals. They also need to discuss what sort of things they are able to make, what sort of things they like to eat, and so they have to collaborate in terms of creating this meal plan.
这个计划呢，就需要培养孩子的这个，一个是成熟度，一个是领导力。他要去跟小朋友们之间一起去协调，如何来做这件完成这个计划。同时，如果他有这个任何的过敏的一些东西，他要自己要讲出来，让整个小组在做用餐计划的时候，要把这些因素都考虑进去。所以呢，他还要考虑就是他能做的这个饭，以及他想吃的饭之间的一个平衡。
So things that I would really appreciate for you guys to look out for make sure that the students know exactly who is responsible for bringing what items of food. On this meal plan here, you'll see that we've specifically left a section for them to write the name of the person who's responsible for that meal. But I would encourage you to make sure that the students all know who's supposed to be bringing what, so we don't have 2 people turning up with breakfast and nobody's brought dinner.
还有一点我们特别需要家长的帮助的一点呢，就是说，要保证每个孩子知道他该携带的东西是什么，而且谁携带什么东西。比如说，我们不希望看到2个孩子都带了早餐，却没有这个组里没有人准备晚餐的这样的一些现象，所以这一点是你们可以帮助的。
And as well as that, make sure that they are thinking about quantities, so they're bringing enough for their group, enough for each member, and also that they're not bringing way too much.
还有一个数量的考量，就是说他要带够他们小组同学们一起吃和他自己吃的这个数量，同时我们也不希望他带的过多，增加过多不必要的重量。
They should also be thinking about their snacks. Snacks are really important for them when they're in a winter environment to try and keep warm. It takes a lot of energy to keep your body warm when it's cold. It may be as cold as -10 when we're out there, and so making sure that they have lots of healthy snacks with lots of calories, lots of energy is really important for the students to bring.
另一个就是零食，他们一定要带一些东西在这个过程当中，因为呢，整个行程会花他们很多的这个消耗很多的卡路里，他们要保证自己能够有足够的这个热量，所以带一些这样的点心，这个加餐的东西对他们也很重要。
And the final thing is, like I said, it can be as cold as -10 when we're out there, and maybe even slightly colder than that. So yeah, the students have to consider that when they're planning their meals. If they bring a jar of Nutella and they're planning on having that for their breakfast, it will be as hard as a brick when they wake up in the morning.
刚才我讲了，就是外面的温度会有可能达到-10度，甚至于更冷的这样的一个气温环境，所以这个孩子们在计划自己的早餐的时候，一定要考虑清楚。比如说他们早上会带那个杏仁巧克力酱，想要做早餐，可是，在-10几度的这种环境下，那个酱会硬得像砖头一样，就根本就没有办法吃，所以他们在计划的时候，这些都要考虑好。
Okay. Any questions about the meal planning?
还有什么问题吗？关于这个用餐计划？ Can they bring the meat?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, absolutely. So long as they're able to cook it with what they have here and without taking too much time, then that's fine. And the good thing about it being cold is they can take meat with them and they don't have to worry about it going back. So yeah,
可
absolutely.
以带，只要是我们现有的这个设备能够做熟的。第二呢，就是说做的时间不要太长。所以冬天的好处是这个肉食是可以带的，不用担心坏掉。
它那个炉子不是只能20分钟吗？20分钟之后做不熟怎么办？
所以就是要考虑熟了以后再说。
So they just have to make sure that whatever it is they're bringing won't take up. Okay, so I have the groups are up here. Is there anyone who doesn't know either which camp or what other students their son or daughter is with?
你们这是分组情况，你们是不是还不知道？有谁不知道自己的孩子是哪一组？
Okay. Grace 1. Grace is she's on camp 1 up here with Irene and Maggie. Okay.
第一组，
David Lee. He is. Yeah, he's on camp 1 with Tommy and Howard. Blue is boys, so boys group 1, females group 1, boys camp 2, females camp 2.
蓝色是男孩子的组，红色是女孩子。左边靠左边的是第一个 camp，中间靠右边是第二个 camp。
I can show them this.
周日的。Does the school provide the water? Whatever they need.
They will be melting snow for water when they're camping, and there is also a water pump that we'll use when we're camping. When we're in the cabins, they just have taps.
要么是融雪的水，要么就是当那个 camp 的现场有那个水泵，可以自己去拿水，然后到了那个宿舍里头就是自来水。
Okay, so the final thing before we end for the evening, some key dates. We've just had our second information session with the students, so they all know which groups they're in. They've seen the equipment the same way that you guys have, and we've spoken about meal planning. They've had an opportunity to start their meal planning. It should have been shared with you. So like I said, please take the chance to look at what it is they're planning on taking with them.
我们已经跟孩子刚开过第2次信息帖，也跟他们给你们看这个设备是一样的，已经跟孩子们有讲过。另一个就是已经让他们开始计划自己要带的那个带餐的一些活动，所以希望你们孩子会去跟你们分享这个用餐计划的一些情况，如果没有，你们回去要去问他。
So the final thing from here that is important for you to notice is that the gear checks for both camps happen before Camp 1. So before any of the camps go out, both groups will have done their gear check. And that means that they have to come into school and they have to show to either me or to Miss McTavish that they have with them everything that is on the clothing and equipment list.
很重要的一个就是在2个 camp 出发之前，我们要完成所有学生的这个装备检查，包括他们的着装和他们要携带的一些这个设备。所以呢，请你们在这个之前要做好这个准备。
Yeah,
那个
and
我想问一下，裤子也是5层吗？还要准备一个薄的一个
layers for the
for pants. So I personally would normally wear at least 3.
至少3层。
要准备薄的羽绒服吗？
You can get down pants, but I personally I don't use them. If I did, I would only need my long john and then a down pant, and then a rain pants over the top if it was raining.
所以就是如果你穿那个的话，就不需要穿那么多层了，但是外面一定有一层那个防雨的。如果是那种waterproof 的滑雪服 ，just 1 layer with the waterproof, like a ski pants that are waterproof, but you can put down or fix it.
Sorry, say it again.
It's like a layer for the pants, but the surface is waterproof.
Yeah, so as long as it actually is waterproof, so it's like a Gore-Tex material and is insulated, that plus a long john layer would probably be okay.
里面穿一条那个好像秋裤一样的那样子，然后外面穿一个，但是一定要保证那个是防绝对防水的。我们的像他们是像他们的衣服多外面多出来是水高，他们雪地上
a lot of them they'll be wearing a lot of their clothes when they're asleep because it's cold. The things that they're not wearing, they will sometimes put inside their sleeping bag, or they'll be inside their bags inside the tent.
放在包里，或者是大部分人的衣服都是穿在身上睡的，穿的要么是放在睡袋下面，放在包里。就是锅里那个，你就是搞没有牛肉馆。How if we put everything into the backpack, how much weight do you have any idea?
That depends on what they have in the bag. Like I said, like a down jacket is lighter than synthetic, and so a synthetic sleeping bag is quite a lot heavier than a down sleeping bag. So it kind of depends, but I would guess probably 7 or 8 kilos. Maybe by the time they've got all their food in there and their tent that we get from school, yeah, probably their tent, their food, all their clothes, some water. Yeah, I would guess 7 or 8 kilos, something like that.
7到8公斤，当然你选择的东西
材料头这个不错。
Okay, so I know that we have gone on for a long time, so thank you very much for bearing with us. If you have any other questions,